Not even a global pandemic could slow down Canada's real estate market. Instead, COVID-19 galvanized higher-income buyers, benefiting from low interest rates and higher savings. The result? Record mortgage borrowing and a sharp increase in prices. And the gains weren't limited to big cities or their suburbs, or even places within a 90-minute commute. The average sale price skyrocketed from southwestern Ontario to the south shore of Nova Scotia, and even in regions hurt by COVID and low energy prices.
Alberta has seen tremendous growth in sales activity, but at the same time, our story of price is a little different than what you see in the rest of the country. We're more of a story of price recovery in our market versus hitting new all-time record highs.
Last year, households added an average of $66,000 of value to their non-financial assets. The market has slightly cooled this year, but the CMHC still forecasts an 11 to 14% rise in home prices. Those numbers are good news for owners and sellers, but a continuing nightmare for anyone worried about being priced out of home ownership, including first-time buyers and younger Canadians. Nearly 2 in 5 non-homeowners under 40 don't believe they'll ever own a home. And the Bank of Canada says the rapid rise of prices and a fear of missing out continues to generate bigger mortgages relative to income, exposing owners to higher interest rates down the road and leaving the economy and financial system more vulnerable.
Every single housing boom bust that we've seen historically, the thing that really busts the market is higher interest rates.
The federal government's independent financial regulator has raised the so-called stress test on uninsured mortgages held by major banks. But with a good deal of real estate law and regulation resting with the provinces, what else could or should a federal government do?
That level of intensity, that level of stress, the fact that affordability is such a key priority issue for young people and for people on the center left. Will we be in a period post-pandemic, regardless of who forms government, in a place where Canadians are saying, we're looking to you, federal government, to get bigger and to help us more?
Some want to emulate New Zealand tax changes aimed at speculators and house flipping, with that country's central bank now required to pay attention to the housing market when setting monetary policy. Other ideas center on the capital gains tax, ending the exemption for principal residents, and increasing the rate for non-principal residents.
I think when you think about any policy decisions made, I think my hope would be to focus it more on a regional basis and look at what you can do with the provinces, with the municipalities, to try and address some of the supply issues.
All parties are vowing to tackle the supply issue. Beyond that, the Liberals promise a crackdown on flipping and speculation, a ban on new foreign ownership for 2 years, a tax-free savings account for those under 40, and a doubling of the first-time buyer's credit. Conservatives also want a 2-year ban on all non-resident foreign buyers and more attention to money laundering, plus changes to mortgage rules and a replacement for the first-time buyers program. The Green Party wants housing and homelessness declared a national emergency, and the NDP has called for a 20% foreign buyers tax, more ownership transparency, more attention to the rental market, and the reintroduction of 30-year terms to CMHC-backed mortgages for first-time buyers.
It's everyone. There are people that have got good income that can't find a place to live, young professionals, there are young families that can't find a place to live, people who just graduated and are starting off life, they can't find anything in their budget.
But access to housing isn't the only question of affordability and inequality emerging from a pandemic whose effects have been uneven. Even with the economic contraction, Canadian household saving has skyrocketed to the tune of some $200 billion in 2020, according to the Conference Board of Canada. Disposable income increased nearly 37% for low-income households in 2020, and the youngest households saw the biggest relative gains in net worth as pandemic support measures offset lost income. Still, older households added an average of $91,000 in wealth last year, compared with less than $27,000 for younger households. As for the labor market, visible minorities have faced higher unemployment for years, and COVID-19 only widened the gap. One report says better utilizing their skills could boost Canada's GDP by nearly $30 billion. Another analysis found all jobs lost in 2020 were among those earning below average wages, including part-time, temporary, and self-employed workers. But it was Canada's lowest wage earners, $14 an hour and less, who experienced the biggest decline.
The folks that work in low-wage jobs are not at all disposable. In fact, they are essential to the proper functioning of our economy. These folks are absolutely necessary to us getting groceries, getting food, taking care of our children, and so on.
Is one answer a universal basic income? The NDP and Greens are in favor, and so were delegates at the last Liberal convention. The Liberal government has not heeded the call, but Justin Trudeau is looking to billions in childcare spending as a spark for, among other things, getting more women in the workforce, especially with pandemic job losses in the service sector disproportionately affecting women.
It'll allow more women to build careers knowing that their children are in good hands with great educators and providers, and with quality childcare. It will ensure that all kids get the best possible support in life.
The Conservative leader's message on inequality is rooted in the national interest, strong communities, and even strong unions in countering the concentration of power among corporate and financial elites.
Do we really want to abandon a generation of Canadians to some form of Darwinian struggle? A future without the possibility of home ownership, a sense of inevitability. While some benefit, millions are losing hope, and resentment is growing.
Money stress, money pressure, and how that fits in an ecosystem of how you're working and where you're living really does occupy the time and the mental and emotional capacity of a significant number of Canadians, particularly in our urban centres. And of course, the parties can't win unless they win those urban centres.